Hello, my name is Beata. Welcome to another one of my videos. In this one, I will tell you about the symbolism and meaning of Nine of Swords in the Thoth deck. As usual, I will start with a description of the card, and then we will dive deeper into the symbolism of all of the elements that we can see here. I will list the meanings of this card in divination at the very end of the video, and the timestamp for when I start talking about that is shown below now, so you can jump there if you want. Looking at this card, we can see 9 swords that look quite damaged, and we can also see that the blood is dripping from them, and the whole image here is very intense. We can feel this pain and suffering, and there is absolutely no doubt here that we are in a lot of trouble. And this directness and boldness of the imagery is why I love this deck so much. There is definitely no sugarcoating the truth here. We see immediately that this is a very difficult energy, and we need to pay attention to understand how to get ourselves out of the mess that we are in. Now let's hear a quote from the Book of Thoth to find out what Crowley tells us about this card. The symbol shows 9 swords of varying lengths, all striking downwards to a point. They are jagged and rusty. Poison and blood drip from their blades. So we will start with talking about the symbolism of these swords, and before we dive into this, I just wanted to let you know that you can support this channel by liking, commenting, and of course subscribing. You can also become a patron of the channel for just €3 per month, so that's a little over $3. I also accept one-time donations through PayPal. All of the links are in the video description below. Thank you very much for considering this. Your support secures the future of this channel. Okay, let's get back to the 9 of Swords now. We can see that the hilts of the swords have a very interesting adornment here. There is a Scorpio sting on each of them, and it looks here like it's stinging the sword. So we know that the poison comes from the sword itself. A Scorpio symbolism is here because the astrological attribution of the card is Mars in Gemini. And I will talk about this a bit more later, but here we just need to know that Mars traditionally rules 2 signs, Scorpio and Aries. So here we have a more intense and precise energy of Mars that shows up in his rulership of Scorpio. And we can see the blood dripping from the swords, and if we count the droplets, we will get 26 of them. 26 is an atomic number of iron, which is very interesting because iron is in our blood. This is what makes it possible to carry oxygen throughout our bodies. And iron is also a metal of Mars. 26 is also a numerological value of the name of God in Hebrew. It is also connected to the Greek word agape, meaning love, through Strong's Concordance. James Strong decided in late 19th century to provide an index for the Bible. And according to this index, that we call Strong's Concordance, every word in the Bible is numbered. And this makes it possible, among other things, to cross-reference how words are used in different contexts throughout the text. And the word agape is the 26th word in the Greek version of the Bible. There are also other droplets in the top and middle parts of the card. These ones are golden yellow in color. We have 95 of them here, and this number is connected to the 95 Theses of Martin Luther that he posted at the Castle Church of Wittenberg in early 16th century. And as we know, this was the beginning of Reformation in the church. Martin Luther disagreed with the common church practice at the time of selling indulgences, which were certificates believed to reduce the punishment in purgatory for sins committed by the purchasers or their loved ones. So basically you could just buy out some of your time in purgatory by buying one of these certificates. And Martin Luther claimed that this encouraged sin and stopped people from properly repenting and doing charity. The indulgences were like a quick and easy fix for a guilty conscience and made people careless with their behaviors. We can also quote the 95th verse of Buddha's Dhammapada here. He who is unperturbed like the earth, who is steadfast like Indra's post, whose character is as pure and translucent as a clear lake, to such a holy one there are no further cycles of rebirth. We also have the 95th verse of the Bhagavad Gita, and this is Krishna's lecture to Arjuna on Karma Yoga. Do thy work in the peace of yoga and free from selfish desires. Be not moved in success or in failure. Yoga is an evenness of mind, a peace that is ever the same. And if you think this is reaching a bit too far, let's now hear a quote from the Book of Thoth that will confirm that this could be what Crowley intended. There is, however, a way of dealing with this card, the way of passive resistance, resignation, the acceptance of martyrdom. Nor is an alien formula that of implacable revenge. So he is telling us that the way to deal with these difficult situations in our life is to accept them. If you do not engage and do not react to another person trying to hurt you, you are stepping out of the duality of that situation. And if there is no victim, there can be no bully. And we need to also accept our role in a given situation, because sometimes we are a victim, but if we keep on engaging in this situation, we stay a victim. And the trick is to step out of the situation altogether. Accept what is happening and accept our role in all of this, but then consciously decide to change the dynamics. And the way we sometimes stay in a loop of these difficult situations is shown by Karpman drama triangle. It's a model of interactions between people that shows how we switch roles within this system to achieve our subconscious goals. But overall, as long as you stay within the model, no problem can be solved. It's a closed system. So we can only break free if we stop engaging. We need to start making conscious decisions instead of just reacting without thinking. And this is where Crowley might be wrong, because he says that revenge is also an option. But if we take revenge, we are still in the drama triangle. We have just assumed a different role. It's only a temporary solution that will lead us to more drama in the future. And to be truly out, we need to recognize when we are being sucked into a drama triangle and make sure we don't take on any of those roles. Let's have a look at the Tree of Life now and see what else we can understand from our current position on it. We are now in Yesod, the 9th Sephirah, connected with the moon and color purple. So we are only one step away from the final manifestation of the energy in Malkuth. And here is what Crowley says about this. The number 9, Yesod, brings back the energy to the central pillar of the Tree of Life. The previous disorder is now rectified. But the general idea of the suit has been constantly degenerating. The swords no longer represent pure intellect so much as the automatic steering of heartless passions. Consciousness has fallen into a realm unenlightened by reason. This is the world of the unconscious primitive instincts, of the psychopath, of the fanatic. So we have another confirmation here that in the energy of this card, we are acting on impulse. The pure intellect of the Six of Swords is no longer with us. We have fallen into the subconscious, and our actions are ruled now by primitive instincts. And this happens even though we are in the middle pillar that should be giving us balance, and we know we have rectified our previous mistakes from the Eight of Swords. And so we have decided to take action that we were previously unable to take. But unfortunately, the effects of this action are not what we had hoped for. And we will see now how the decan that we are in is influencing the overall energy here. We are now in the middle decan of Gemini, so this is Mars in Gemini. And the time frame associated with this decan is from the 1st until the 10th of June. Crowley describes this influence in the following way. The celestial ruler is Mars in Gemini, crude rage of hunger operating without restraint. Although its form is intellectual, it is the temper of the Inquisitor. And he also says in a different place that here the original disruption inherent in the suit of swords is raised to its highest power. It is agony of mind. The Ruah consumes itself in this card. Thought has gone through every possible stage, and the conclusion is despair. This card has been very adequately drawn by Thompson in The City of Dreadful Night. It is always a cathedral of the damned. There is the acrimonious taint of analysis. Activity is inherent in the mind, yet there is always the instinctive consciousness that nothing can lead anywhere. And we know that Mars has a fiery energy, and in the suit of swords and in the sign of Gemini, we are only adding air to that fire. So there is no substance, there is no feeling, it's just hot and dry air blowing everywhere with a fierce strength. Mars likes to act, it's impulsive and aggressive, it's concerned with survival, with adventure, and it can be quite direct and forceful. And if we put this energy in a mutable air sign of Gemini, we are only further aggravating Mars in this scattered and inconsistent placement. Gemini is very clever, but it's also very flexible. It likes to explore, and it changes its mind with ease and quite often. And we can see how Mars has no limits here. His impulsiveness and aggression is only enhanced in this placement. Crowley mentions Ruah here, and Ruah means Holy Spirit, but it also means breath or wind, so it references this invisible moving force of divine origin. I mentioned it in greater detail in my video about the Ace of Swords. And what Crowley says here also reminds me of a quote from Stephen King. If given a knife and a hand in which to hold it, the mind would eventually eat itself, not because it wanted to, because it did not want to. So all of this shows us that the mind on its own cannot accomplish anything, and what is even worse, it will start to be very damaging if left unchecked. Crowley says that thought has gone through every possible stage, and the conclusion is despair. So there is no way to untangle the problems in our mind by logic and further thinking. And this is why meditation has such a positive effect on us. It's a way to see what is beyond our busy mind, and through regular practice, we learn to recognize what is truly us, what is our nature and our soul's purpose, and what is just a construct of our mind. The glorification of pure intellect can only lead us down the path of a fanatic, inquisitor, or a psychopath. And as always, Crowley wants us to know that we can only be happy and fulfilled if there is a balance in our lives. If we only live inside our own heads, we will always be ruled by our fears and our primitive instincts. And the last thing I wanted to mention is the poem that Crowley brings to our attention here, The City of Dreadful Night by James Thompson. It's quite long, so I've linked it in the video description below if you want to read it and get this very visceral sense of what the energy of the Nine of Swords is really like. I'm just going to mention a short quote from it here to give you a little taste of it. The city is of night, but not of sleep. There, sweet sleep is not for the weary brain. The pitiless hours like years and ages creep. A night seems termless hell. This dreadful strain of thought and consciousness which never ceases, or which some moments stupor but increases, this, worse than woe, makes wretches there insane. And I think it links very nicely with the imagery on the Rider-Waite-Smith card. I think every single human being had this kind of a night at some point in their lives, and this is exactly the feeling we get when we can't sleep and we just stay awake, tormenting ourselves with our thoughts. We are thinking about all of the mistakes that we've made, and we are being really cruel to ourselves. Now I'm going to tell you a bit about the meaning of this card in divination. The Nine of Swords shows us cruelty, and this can mean that we are being harmed by someone, but also that we are harming others. We are being ruled by our fears and our primitive instincts, and this makes us act in a way that is not reflecting who we really are. This card can also show us that we are harming ourselves. We are being very critical and we are judging ourselves very harshly. And as we know, usually the people who are very harsh towards themselves are also harsh towards others. So we have here this victim-bully duality that makes us a victim in some situations, but then to compensate for that, we become a bully towards others. And we are enacting both roles, but we do it subconsciously, so we don't often realize that we are locked in this dynamic. If this card describes a person, this will be someone who is unable to fully be themselves at this moment. This person acts in a way that will harm both them and others. Their actions are based on their difficult experiences in the past. So we have to know that this person is dealing with a lot already, and we need to have compassion towards them. But also don't let them drag you into their drama. In relationship readings, this card often shows someone who had a painful experience in a past relationship, and they haven't fully processed that yet. So they are not entirely ready for a new relationship because the fear that they still carry within them will make them hurt people. And there is still work to be done on their part before they can be emotionally available to fully open up to another person. In work-related readings, the Nine of Swords can show that there is someone cruel and judgmental in our workplace, and this person will definitely make our life difficult. If we can see a bully somewhere in management in a company, we know that this place has a bad company culture, and it's best to avoid places like that if at all possible. On the other hand, this card can also show us that we became a target for a bully because we don't appreciate our own value enough. We could be very critical towards ourselves, and this can lead us to stay in workplaces that are toxic because we think that it's somehow our fault or that we should change something in ourselves to make our situation better. And the truth is that the only thing we should change is to realize that we deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. The best way to deal with a bully is to avoid them. So the best thing to do is to find a different job in a company with a healthier culture. In spirituality, the Nine of Swords will show that we are in a very poor shape. We need to really look closely at what is happening in our lives, and we need to find out how to take care of ourselves better. And this can be a sign also that someone is trying to harm us, so we need to figure out how to protect ourselves. If this card shows up in your reading as an obstacle, it will mean that you are being too hard on yourself, and this exposes you as a target to bullies. Take a better care of yourself, know your worth and your potential, and don't engage with people ruled by their primitive instincts. You are better than this. As advice, the Nine of Swords tells you that maybe you are seeking revenge for something that has been done to you. Stop and consider your options. Maybe right now you think that revenge is the only way, but think about how much more harm and suffering you will be bringing into the world if you follow through with your plan. Is this the person that you want to be? Do you want to be cruel, and do you want to harm another person, even if they harmed you first? We need to remember that bringing more suffering into the world never solves any problem. If you take your revenge, the other person will not see the error of their ways, they will only see a justification of their actions. They will see you as a reflection of themselves, and you will only prove them right. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and please remember to like the video, leave a comment, and of course subscribe to my channel. I would like to thank everyone who is already supporting the channel. I appreciate your help very much. And if you want to help secure the future of this channel, please consider a one-time PayPal donation, or you can become my patron for just €3 per month. And once 100 people sign up for my Patreon, all of the patrons will be able to suggest and vote for future content of the channel. So if you want to have your say in what videos I create next, click on the link in the video description below. Every little bit of support and every donation is great help and is greatly appreciated. Once again, thank you so much for today, and I will see you in the next video about the Ten of Swords very soon. Thank you, bye!